Can't break in, but as long as I don't answer the door, I'm not off to jail. When I met Kris, I was in that kind of a place. Relationships in the toilet, obviously like no credit score. Right before I joined the team in my past life, the previous job I worked at, there was a nice car that drove by at the front of our building, and one of my coworkers started talking about a dream they had to own that car. One day I'm gonna have that car. And I had a very incredibly depressing thought that I had no goals or dreams to own a car. I knew I would never even own a house, let alone an investment property. It was just get to the next day, right? That's the place where I was at. I met Kris about a year or so after I started here. He pulled me aside and said, "I think you're a cool dude." This is the paraphrased TikTok version of this story. "I think you're a cool dude, but I get kind of worried that at any given time, you could be snatched from us because you're in such poor health." And he looked me right in my eyes, and like nobody had ever done for me before, stared right into my soul and said, "Ryan, I see you wearing this fat suit, but I know that that is not really you." And he made me an offer. He said if I would write him a metaphorical blank check, agree, no questions asked, to do whatever it was that he told me to do, right? He says, jump, I say, how high? That he would personally mentor me, give me the mindset training that I needed, the nutrition, the exercise, all of that stuff, so I could figure out how to lose 100 pounds and then keep it off forever, right? Fundamentally transform my life. And I think whenever you get an opportunity and an invitation like that, you should just say yes, right? So as terrifying as that was, I told him I was in. I knew I'd play 100%, had no idea if I could lose 100 pounds. That's kind of a crazy thing. But thanks to the dedication that Kris brought to this little arrangement, the care and genuine attention to the systems and the plan that I needed, that mindset training, I lost 100 pounds in 8 months and 2 days, 112 pounds in a year, and 123 in the time that we were working together. Yeah, thank you. So I understand what it is that is on the line when you get invitations like that. And so as I bring Kris up and as we go into the rest of this evening, it's designed to be something that can be a transformative experience for you. So as we bring him up, I would invite you to consider what it is that you need in your life right now. What is that component of transformation? Something that has to be fundamentally different tomorrow than it is today for you to get to where it is that you want to be. If you can identify that and be receptive to being uncomfortable a little bit tonight and applying the systems that we're going to learn about, I have no doubt that every single one of you can make that type of move. Might not be in your health, but whether it is in health or your finances, your personal relationships, all of that can come together, and it's always just one choice away, right? Sometimes life can be tricky, life can be hard, but it is always simple in that you only ever have one choice to make, yes or no, on or off, right? Fundamentally, that's all it comes down. I recognize you from being on stage. You know what I'm talking about in this process of breakthrough. Welcome back, buddy. All right, guys, do me a favor, get on your feet, and welcome to the stage, Kris Krohn!
Thank you. Thank you. All right. Welcome, you guys. Welcome. And for all of you that are on Instagram and for everyone that's joining us on Zoom, welcome. And for all those of you that decided to come out, and I know some of you came all the way from Colorado, is that right? If you came from Colorado, raise your hand. Make some noise for Greg, right? Superstar. Before I talk about my relationship with Greg and what we're stepping into in an ecosystem merger, I want to start tonight off with a different kind of question. Let's just get honest with each other for a moment about life. Can we do that? Raise your hand if you're willing to do that. Drop a 1 in the chat if you're willing to do that. I want to talk about the fact that in life, there's a lot of different things to pursue. And there are some things in life that touch everything. There are 4 things in life that touch everything. God, spirituality, revelation, your relationship with God, that touches everything that you do, from the person that you're going to spend time with or maybe marry or children. It's going to touch finances. Raise your hand if you agree with me that the conversation of God touches everything in life. Yes? We're on the same page there. Number 2, your health and fitness. Your body touches everything, whether you're active and can get after it and can travel and go see the world and do places, requires energy, yes or yes? Hello, yes or yes? Yeah, so your body is going to touch everything in life, which is, if you don't take care of it, then your body can't take care of you. Raise your hand if that makes sense, okay? Third thing that's gonna touch everything in life, money. Money. Everyone's got a different definition, but I'll share with you what my definition is because I was financially free at the age of 26. And it's because I didn't want a 40-year career. I already knew what I want in my early 20s, and I decided for myself that there was not a job that I was going to enjoy having, and it was gonna feel like it was gonna crimp my style. I wanted different choices in life, and so I decided that money equaled options. Less money, less choices. More money, more choices. Raise your hand if that makes sense. So we're gonna talk about the game of money because money touches everything. You don't need it to be happy, but it will give you a lot more options and choices in life that can lead to happiness or a lot of other mischievousness as well. Yes or yes? Yes. The fourth thing that is going to touch everything is love. What is it? Love. This game of how we do companionship, this game of how we connect with human beings, if you suck at that game, then you get to enjoy divorce, then you get to enjoy estranged children, then you get to experience all of that garbage. Raise your hand, you know what I'm talking about. And on the other side, if you get good at the game of love, you get to receive a lot, you get to give a lot, and that's gonna touch everything in life. Raise your hand if you believe that all four of these things touch everything in life. So if they touch everything, here's the crazy thing for me about being human. When we're kids, we focus on good grades. Then when we leave the house, we're told to focus on education and a career. And all of the energy just goes towards the game of money. And then it's just kind of assume that you'll figure out the relationship game. Is there a lot of training on how to take care of your body? Is it standardized? Is it available? Is there a lot of training on how to take care of your body? Yes or no? I hear a yes here, but how many of you would say, I didn't get a lot of training on that game? I'm raising my hand, I didn't. Literally, my mother taught me that sugar was love. And if she gave me more sugar, then I should feel more love from her. I had a really messed up relationship with the game of food growing up. Both of my parents were extremely overweight. And when I went into elementary school and junior high, I don't think there was a very formal education process for how important your temple is, your body is, for how you take care of it if you want to live a really long, beautiful life. And I'm facing this one really in my life right now because my father is 82 years old. And my parents came to live with me 16 years ago. I've been taking care of them. And 2 months ago, my dad had a really bad fall. And he broke his hip and he broke his shoulder. And his body is not recovering. And today, my mom went to go see him in the recovery center. It's been 2 months. And my dad was so sad and so depressed. He didn't even want to look at her. He didn't want to connect with her. After the fall, Alzheimer's set in at an accelerated rate. I'm probably going to lose my dad this year. My dad has never prioritized his health in his entire life. Do I think that affects where he is right now? Of course it does. And it hurts because I love my dad and I want another decade with him. I want more time with him. But here's the truth. These four things that we really don't talk about, like how many of you are raised with a really deep endowment on financial knowledge and how the world worked financially? Raise your hand if you got a deep financial education. I don't see a single hand up. So we're not getting a financial education. How many of you are instructed in the art of love and what it is to give unconditional love and how to not be an overgiver and how to not be a taker and how to live life and create fairness and how to have a good marriage? How many feel like you are technically trained well on that? I'm not seeing any hands there. So here's the weird thing. Our life, we focus on career, we focus on a lot of shit, but what really matters in the end? These four things matter. But there's not a lot that we do with them. I want to open up this conversation. If you guys are comfortable having this conversation tonight, we just raise your hand and say yes. Yes. Do me a favor and give me a bigger yes. Yes. All right, cool. So we're going to dive in. We're going to have this conversation. For those of you online, please feel free to comment. I got my team here. We're going to be working the keyboards. And I do have some special things I want to give away with you tonight. But I want to start the night off with a little bit of a disappointment. Can I do that? I don't know why you'd give me permission to do that. So Greg Kimball right now is 5 minutes away from here in a hotel. We've spent the last 2 days together. He's been in the hospital all day with pancreatitis. And it is It's really bad. He's going to another doctor. He's trying to get another opinion. He's trying to figure out what's going on. Literally last night at Communal, 2 minutes from here, we were having the most magical long dinner. We're exploring government contracts and new possibilities and things that we want to do together. And I literally feel like a month and a half ago, I found like my twin that I want to ride or die with. So tonight was designed to be a Kris and Greg for fun, a give back, and just say, bro, let's get the two of us together. No plan, and let's see what we create. And let's just see what you create. And so obviously tonight's going to look a little bit different. So for those of you that are here because of Greg Kimball, first of all, I just want to tell you his sincere apologies that he's not here tonight. He literally still thinks in an hour, he's like, oh, Kris, I promise I'm going to, after the pain meds kick in, I want to come and at least say hi to everyone. I'm like, keep your ass in your room. Don't show up. We're going to be okay. He feels awful. So I just want you to know for those of you that know Greg, he's such an incredible human being. And I think if he were bleeding out, he'd still probably try to get here just to share the love and tell you guys that he's sorry that the evening is going to go a little bit different than planned. But I said, Greg, don't worry about it because I'm going to do my part. We're going to have an amazing evening. And we're going to have a conversation that I don't think human beings are having that they should. How many of you have ever had a coach in your life, by the way? Out of curiosity, a coach? There's quite a few of you here, especially if you're part of the Greg contingency. For those of you online, if you've ever had a coach, put a 2 in the chat and let Carson respond on that one. Here's the cool thing. Most people will go through life and they'll never have a coach. And this is really weird to me. What's the benefit of having a coach? Just shout it out. Accountability, 100%. What else? Different perspective, because we're living our entire life in our mind, and then if you do have a significant other, you're living the majority of your life in yours and their mind, and then like, that's it. That's terrifying. I paid $1 million to a man who was my mentor for 7 years, and the most valuable lesson that he taught me is this. The most dangerous information is what you don't know. So getting the perspective of a coach, to me, is kind of everything. But most human beings walk around like, I'm going to regurgitate and barf what I think about the world. I'm like, who cares what you think? You know what you think. What are you trying to do? Like, win followers? Like, if you want to go further in life, you got to get on the shoulders of giants, which means get the perspective of other people, right? So coaching is a way to break free from what we on our own would end up doing in our own life. Does that make sense? And I'm kind of curious, I mean, with what Greg and I marketed the evening was going to be about, for those of you online, why did you specifically come tonight? Like, dude, it takes a lot of energy to get in a car and drive somewhere. Probably not a ton of energy to like flip the Zoom cam on, but you're here. Like, what were you hoping to get out of our time together? Can I just get a couple of comments? Mindset. Tell me about mindset. What do you mean?
I've been to some of your events before. I know what to do.
Yeah. Okay, awesome. So there's a desire to enhance the mindset because there's a gap of where I'm trying to get to, and I'm lacking the mindset to get there. Awesome. Let's get a couple more reasons, and if you're online, I'll have Carson share those out loud as well. But what are some other reasons why you decided to get in a car and come tonight or plug on in?
Looking to get to know you better. I'm not a long-time follower. Saw you speak at a recent event. Connected with Greg, my current mentor.
Yeah.
I'm in the real estate space for several years, and I want to continue to scale, and it's been a struggle forever.
I love it. I love it. So you've done some real estate? You've done tons of real estate. How many deals have you done? Ish. Couple hundred. So trying to figure out, how do I get maybe to a couple thousand?
How do I go from $100 million to $2 billion sold?
How do I go from 100 million to 2 billion? Well, we can certainly talk about that tonight because most people mistake me for a real estate guy, and I think instead I'm a scale guy. Because the truth is I'm scaling all sorts of things in life, and shoot, real estate is like boring. It's meaningful, it makes really amazing money, but like, how many of you have found that you've gotten to a point in your career where you're kind of bored? Has anyone gotten there where you're like, it's kind of the same thing, it's not challenging me, it's not pushing me? And it's like, oh, we're gonna talk about that one as well, because again, you have this life and you get to decide what you're gonna do, and so many of us humans are not iterating. You guys know what iteration is? We're not releasing the reinvention of the new version of us that has more potential and more possibility, because we're just stuck kind of playing the same game, dialed in, maybe going for deeper mastery, But is there anyone here that sometimes feels like you might be missing out on more in life? Like you know there's more, your potential tells you that you're more, but you don't know how to access it? Raise your hand if you have that feeling from time to time. Shoot, almost everybody, and I want to see online if those of you have as well. Carson, go ahead.
Tracy says, I'm here to get out of my own way.
Yep.
Mary Jo says to close the gap.
Close the gap.
And Christy says, I want to transcend.
I like that one.
And then yes, lots of people are chiming in that yes, they feel this way.
Okay, actually, I'm really grateful for the comment about transcendence because it's such a big ethereal word and it can mean so many different things, but it connotates this idea that we're meant to become something more. There's more for our life, and I saw a lot of hands up. We're looking to figure out how do we excel, how do we grow, how do we get to our next level. So those are all perfect conversations for what tonight is going to be about. Let's come back and dive in first on these 4 things that we started talking about. And I want to open up the conversation for just a moment, a little bigger online and here. And here's the question. What is it that you, before I ask it, I'm going to frame it up. Out of any question on the planet, I'm a collector of questions, by the way, because the quality of your life is determined by the quality of questions that you're willing to ask. And how many of you know people that don't like to get out of their comfort zone and they play it safe in life? You know what I'm talking about? Those people do not ask tough questions. They're okay with mediocrity and normalcy. They want to live the same boring thing, groundhogs, day in and day out. And that's okay. Some people are built for that. But they're not pushing their edges and they're not really trying to figure out the answer to the question that I want to give you right now. I think the most difficult question, far more difficult than where did we come from and where are we going, why are we here? I think the most difficult question on planet Earth for us to answer is this one. What do you want? It's impossible to get what you want if you don't know what it is. So when humans don't know what they want, guess what they default to? What their parents wanted, what their friends want, what some inspirational dude or dudette said that they wanted. But I actually want to open it up and I want to ask this question because I know what I want. I know what I'm after. But tonight's not really about me. We might talk about it a little bit. I'm kind of curious, online and those of you here, help me out for just a moment. For you, because there's no wrong answer, right? It's your life. I couldn't judge it. I couldn't say whether it's right or wrong. I don't actually believe in right and wrong. I think that is a very devastating black and white game to play. I'm actually into learning instead of right and wrong. I'm into growing. It's a different game. So there's no judgment here. If this is like a free, safe place, and if we can just cut out all the bullshit, I want a nice house, I want world travel, I want world peace, no. I'm asking the question, what do you want? If you think you got one part of that answer, I'd love to hear from some of you and I'd love to share it online. Carson, what are we getting?
Hunter says, I want to escape the rat race and achieve financial independence.
Okay, so right now we're saying, I want financial independence and I want to skip the rat race. I can identify with that one.
Denise says, money, time, and freedom.
Money, time, and freedom.
IR47 says, the freedom to live my life the way I choose. Mark says, become a new version of myself. Daisy says, I want to control my time. Matthew says, same here. Financial independence.
But I just want to say something. When you say you want financial independence, you're not telling me what you want. And when you're telling me you want time freedom, you're not telling me what you want. I'm actually asking, what do you want? Not, it would be so great if I had money and time so I could do whatever I want. What would you do if you could do what you want? Like, what do you want with your life? Get me more real answers, everybody. And for those of you that are here, cough them up. Like, what is it that you really want? What gets you going? What gets you excited? Let's see it. You want to live a life of generosity. Why do you want that? It's what brings you the most happiness. Okay, so for you, you're zoning in on this game of generosity. Tyler.
I want to be able to not ever have to worry about money again so that I may be able to assist other people in healing and growing.
You don't want to worry about money because you want to focus on healing and growing.
Yes, exactly.
I hear you. Okay. In the modern world, you're trying to connect with men and help them in the game of masculinity because it is completely under attack, like in like a really, really great way. So I'm starting to hear purpose. How many of you are feeling that? Generosity, healing, men. The closest answer that I think you're actually going to come up with is a mission, a calling, something that you feel called to contribute to on the planet. But to get there, then we play these games. We play, well, I need time and I need money, and I want to figure out that game. And for those of you that commented on that, I just want to share that I was 22 years old and I got a map of the world. Can I share it with you real quick? Can I share it with you guys? Yes or yes? Let me show you what I figured out at 22 years old. Because I was raised by a German immigrant. My dad and my mom in Washington decided to have 9 children. I'm number 4, and all the kids were indoctrinated with this idea of you got to get good grades so you can get a good job, so you can have a good life. And this came from a dad who's an entrepreneur who said, son, whatever you do, don't go into business for yourself. And I believed him. I'm like, Dad's right. I decided I want to be a doctor because I looked at the food chain and I saw that they were kind of at the top, and I thought that sounds probably like a good, sure, safe path. And I also wanted to figure out how to make enough money for my family and my parents. Because I had spiritual intuition when I was little. When I was 8 years old, I could feel God tap me on the shoulder at this particular moment that my parents were fighting. And the message came in, you'll care for your parents in their old age. And so I'm like, okay, I got to have a good money game figured out. So when I returned from a 2-year LDS mission with my church from Germany, and I went to Brigham Young University, 3 minutes that way, I got started on my pre-med classes. And I took organic chemistry and I got a C. And if you guys know anything about becoming a doctor, you're going to sit with your advisor and they're going to say, if you're getting a C in a science class and you have a decade of science ahead of you, you're not going to make it. So I retook the class and then I got a C minus. True story. And that's when I realized, like, my advisor sat down with me and said, Kris, science is not your game. I don't know what your game is, but go find your game. This is not your game. And at the same time, I had a telemarketing job at a company 7 minutes that way. And all day long, 40 hours a week, I was talking to people that were in their 50s and 60s. These people followed my dad's advice. They got good grades. They went to college. They had a good career. And what they had done is I was talking to a subset of Americans who were the fiscally responsible. These are the savers, the 401kers, the IRAs, and the house payer offerers. And what I found to be true with them is what is true today in modern day America, and it looks like this. The average retirement balance at 65 years old, meaning I spent 40 years putting money away for retirement. Does anyone know what the number is? Currently, it's $254,000. And at age 65, the money that they have for retirement, they're spending $87,000 a year. So after 40 years of saving, they've saved enough money for how many years? 3. I worked for 40, I saved for 3, modern medicine keeps me alive for 30 more. Raise your hand if you can see the incongruency in the problem. This is what was going on in my mind, is we have a massive problem here. But there was also something really interesting. Do you guys know for the year 2024 what the average equity position in an average American home is right now as of this moment? The average equity in a house right now in this country is $304,000. So just to be clear, they have more money from just having started years earlier buying a home than intentionally saving for retirement. And what this means when people get to age 65 is, can they quit their jobs? Yes or no? No, they're going to actually work till they're 70 or they're 75, and when they do release themselves from work, they're going to still keep part-time work, and then they have to move in with their kids, or they have to sell their house that they paid off, they have to move into a condo. And here's the reality. This idea of, I want to be generous, this idea of, I don't want to worry about money because I want to go help people, this idea, I have a mission in helping men in the game of masculinity for our modern world, a lot of those dreams, they go up in flames, they go up in smoke. Because people are too busy with a game plan that doesn't work. Raise your hand if any of this is resonating. All right, now our evening is going to take us some really fun places tonight. And if you guys keep chiming in the comments, Carson's going to speak up on your behalf and share those with the group here. But I do want to let everyone know that I have a free gift for everyone that is here this evening. My entire library of real estate, every book that I've ever written, that are all about mindset, finance, how to make your first $1 million, etc. All of those books are actually digitally available, and audiobooks are available for free to everyone. We're going to put the link up, Elias, if you guys can see that. And then Carson, if you want to drop that for everyone online and drop it for those that are joining us on social media. This is where you can basically just click the QR code. Do it right now. Just drop your name, phone, and email, and then we're going to deliver my entire financial library. And my hope for the evening for every one of you here online and for those of you in person is these books are good reads that are going to follow up with the information and the knowledge that we're talking about here this evening. Does that make sense? Yep. Yes or yes? Okay, cool.
Elias, can we shrink that some? The stage is cutting off the bottom and making it a little hard.
So, I want to go back to the question. What do you want? You want a Paragon boat. Why would you like a Paragon? You want a dope surf boat. Yeah? I love that. Perfect. That's for recreation and for just you having pleasure in life and enjoying yourself and doing something physical and fun. I love that. What else do you want? What do you guys want? Online, keep them coming in. Like, what is it? How do you really want to define your life? Is it too special or do you not know? You want to be healthy till the day you die. Beautiful. So there's a regimen for that, isn't there? There's a way that you need to take care of your body if you want to enjoy your health in your older age. Beautiful.
Kris, Steph for Life says, I don't think he even cares about the audience online.
What's that? He said I don't care about the audience online?
That's what Steph said, even though nobody's responding to your question and sharing what they want.
All right.
So maybe just acknowledge them and say, I know you're there. We're responding to all questions, Steph. Yeah. Yeah, Steph.
I have a special set of skills. I'm going to find you, and I'm going to transform your life. Go ahead and show up and participate, dude. And maybe next time get on a plane or get in the car and come join us in person. We always make that available as well. But we've got you online, so let's take advantage of it. The question is, what do you want? What do you really want? A boat, freedom, mission, purpose? You want to spend the key hours of the day with family and with your loved ones. So I'm just going to tell you real quick why. There's a couple of things I'm going to share tonight that might be useful. Your entire universe is driven by your belief system. Does everyone get that? So I want to share with you something that I think I understand about God. And I think it might be one of the biggest parts of the whole purpose of us being here on this planet. You're free to do what you want, and animals are not. Has anyone here ever hit a deer with their vehicle? They are the dumbest creatures, are they not? They're like, oh, there's a car coming. Hurry, run. And then they get hit. Animals, for the most part, they are not agents of freedom. They are literally obeying instinct, and they're just living in their life. Human beings, we have real choice. You literally can do anything you want with your life. You can throw it away. You can mess it up. You can do something brilliant. You can do something great. You literally are at choice every single day with doing whatever you want to do. And the cool thing is, it's like, what do you want to do with your life? Now, tonight I'm going to give you some recommendations because I think they're fun and good. But there's a book that I'd recommend based on some of the ideas we're sharing. And the first one is from Donald Miller. It's 1,000,000 Miles in 1,000 Years. This book is about a man that had a really shitty, lame life. He was literally living in pure lameness. And the first 100 pages will drive you nuts until he went to a conference and then heard something really cool, and he decided to design his life after epic movies. meaning movies that have those epic Star Wars, Lord of the Rings, those storylines where you've got a main character that's starting from nothing and then wants to go live an insanely incredible life. Then he starts just doing really cool things with his life. So you've got this life and you can really do whatever you want, but there are some things that hinder us from getting what we want. And I want to stick with this format, this frame up that we talked about right at the start. I want to talk about the game of love tonight. I want to talk about the game of money. I want to talk about the game of health. And what was the fourth one? These 4 areas. What is it? Spirituality. Now, I'm shooting a little bit on you because I'm basically saying when I meet human beings, there's a men's group that I run, and one of the things that I've learned as I've had a chance to work with men is that in our world, if men can balance achievement in these 4 areas, they tend to be balanced, they tend to be happier, their wives tend to be happier, and they're getting more out of life what they actually want. And life stops working for us if we become lopsided and we stop accelerating in one of these areas of life. Like, just for fun for you right now, I want you to look at these 4 areas and I want you to think, am I excelling? Which one of these areas am I excelling in? Not averaging and not sucking at, like where am I actually winning in life? And I want you to give me on your fingers a number. If you're winning in all 4 areas, give me a 4. If you're crushing it in money, but the other's not really, then give yourself a 1. And I just want to kind of hear from you on a scale of 1 through 4. And please online, drop your number in the chat. Help me understand how balanced your life is or maybe is not. We call this truth by fire. This is where we just face the facts of life. Give me a number right now on all 4 of those. Only give yourself a point if you're killing it. I'm seeing a 3, a 2, a 3, a 0, a 0, a 3, a 3, a 2, a 2. Got a 0, a 0, a 2, a 2. Online?
2 2 1 2 2 1 0 2 1 1 2 3 3 2 8 2 3 2.
All right. Someone got an 8. That was amazing. Just super.
Go Denise.
Super congratulations. Is that my buddy?
It's Denise.
Okay, good. So in these 4 areas, you just gave yourself a score. And here's what I want to ask. If your score was a 0 or a 1 or a 2 or a 3, if you were balanced and winning in all 4 areas, what would change for you? What would change if you felt like, by the way, and it doesn't mean you're a rock star, it's just I daily make growth in all 4 of these areas, and I've got confidence, and I freaking feel good about the balance of my life. Like, shout it out and put it online. Like, how would you feel if you were winning in all 4 areas? You'd be feeling amazing. You'd feel confidence. What else? You'd feel fulfilled. Yeah.
Bliss.
Bliss?
Everything.
Everything?
Living.
Yeah.
Free, unstoppable.
All right. So I want to just share something then with you. I want to give you guys a little bit of a blueprint today. Can I do that? Here's the blueprint that I want to give you. If you are growing in these 4 areas of life, you're going to experience 2 things. How many? The first thing that you're going to experience is you're going to experience positive pattern. Because to accelerate in all of these, we have to form habits. Raise your hand if that makes sense. It's like, if I'm going to win in the game of love, then there's got to be a strategy, a system, an SOP, a standard procedure of operation of how I'm going to go about winning in that game. And it turns out there's a way to win in all 4 of these. But the second thing that you're going to get is you're going to get my favorite word. You're going to get fulfillment. Because I've been asking myself, I had a near-death experience when I was 19 years old, and then 2.5 years ago, I witnessed my daughter try to take her life in front of me. Both of these experiences changed me forever, and they've caused me to reflect on what matters most at the end of life. Because one of my beliefs is that I want to be early. I don't want to get late to the party. The reason why I was retired at 26 years old is because I made a decision. I don't want to retire at 65. I want to retire early so that I can live life on my terms and not what society said that I was supposed to do. Raise your hand if that makes sense. Okay? We can talk about how some of that happens. In fact, I'm going to share with you in a moment here, like probably some of my most precious knowledge on the true key to success in life, because this is something that people don't really understand. But I'm just going to put it to you this way. This game of fulfillment, this is more or less the only game that I am playing in life. And fulfillment seems to happen for me when I release my inner child, when I get really playful, when I get really silly, when I become a total dumbass, when I'm learning, when I'm growing, or I'm experiencing tremendous love. Those are feelings that I chase. I'm pursuing these almost what you might call altered states, because I have them in a level of abundance that most people don't give themselves permission for, because they're living most of their life in their head in strange patterns. These positive patterns, these habits, to be able to achieve these four things, they're sometimes not very sexy. They require commitment and discipline. They take hours every day for me. I spend hours every day doing a certain blueprint of things here, 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 and here. And by doing them, those patterns lead to some of life's coolest experiences. How many of you online or in the room are still trying to hack how to make better money than you are right now? So here's the wisdom I want to drop on you. It's not universal, it's just my experience. My experience in life is that there is an order to the experience of these things. Some of these things are easier to experience and some of these things are harder to experience. And I've learned that success equals proper sequence. In other words, knowing what to do at the wrong time can still be the wrong thing. So I want to talk about timing for just a second if you want to get to this map where what I call having it all. Like, what is it to really have an amazing, complete, full life? This is my philosophy, but it's me having and experiencing all four of these. So I want to ask you the question. I want to ask you, of these four things, which one do you think comes last because it's hardest? I've heard two people say money. I'm hearing health. I want to vote, and I want to hear it online. If you think that money is the last of the four things to come, raise your hand. Over half of us. That looks like 70-80% of us. Carson, online, what are we seeing?
Love, love, money, love, 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 love.
Cool. If we're talking about money like I work at a job and I'm winding up like the average person, I would agree that love is harder. But there's a lot of you here that follow me, or maybe you follow Greg because you're trying to figure out how to live life at a financial higher level. Raise your hand if that's true for you. For you, this is the hardest. But guess where we prioritize it in terms of time and commitment. Show me on your fingers, is it priority 1, 2, 3, or 4? Which one is it? It's priority 1. I want to just show you a really weird game here. This is the hardest, and it's also our number one priority. And when it's our number one priority, guess what gets sacrificed? Everything else gets sacrificed. But what if I told you that this became the easiest to achieve if you were experiencing mastery here? Raise your hand if it makes sense. So here's what I'm suggesting as a blueprint for the game of life. Number 1, take care of your body. If you have weight to lose, stop messing around by telling yourself that you're going to finally on this 29th diet motivate yourself and it's going to actually work. If you tried it and it didn't work, I got news for you. You don't have all of the ingredients to bake the cake. It's probably a bad analogy if we're talking about losing weight. But here's the cool thing about health. When I started making social media, so I do a lot of financial social media, and there's some categories online where I'm the undisputed champion, as arrogant as that sounds. But I went and started a health channel because I helped Ryan lose 120 pounds and started helping people with body transformations. People are losing weight like crazy. I start posting my social media online. Do you know what kind of criticism there is for anyone putting anything about health online? It's huge. It's like everyone is a self-proclaimed expert. And that's because it's not hard. Figure out your discipline. Figure out your commitment. And it's not hard to come up with an ironclad program of how to get your body in order, right? First of all, don't go it alone. Go get some accountability. Put a consequence out there. And go get some professional help. Like, it's freaking cheap to hire an expert and say, hey, can you hang with me for 4 months and go to the gym with me a few times a week and help me figure out how to move my ass the right way? Because I go to the gym and I move it, but my ass's shape is not changing size. So clearly there's something I don't understand. If I was working with a man, like I was working with Ryan, it's like, cool, you're 30-something years old. We got to get some testosterone in your body. So we're going to do some hormone replacement therapy. Dude, number 2, like, you need to eat a gram of protein for every pound that your body weighs. Number 3, no carbs after 2 p.m. Number 4, no sugar whatsoever. You don't get any sugar because we're about to do something exceptional in transforming your body. And I'll tell you this last thing. Like, the first month at the gym is going to suck. How many of you know that if you haven't been going and you do it? The second month, you're gonna BMW, bitch, moan, and whine. The third month, you're gonna start seeing some results and you're gonna start saying, there's something to this. By the 4th month, you're gonna say, I actually like what I'm getting. And by the 5th month, you're gonna say, no one can take this from me. In my experience working with humans, it's not 30 days to transformation, it's 5 months. You got to lock in a habit for 5 months so that you can go from a really shitty mindset to a really incredible mindset. That's my experience of most humans. Now, by the way, if you learn the game of mentality and mindset, you can learn how to do it in a day. I can change my mind on anything right now and be good because I've cultivated a strategy and a system of a way to think. But in the beginning, it was not that way. If you lack discipline, if you look in the mirror, if you take your shirt off and you look in the mirror and you don't like what you say and you're full of negative self-talk, you don't have commitment and you don't have discipline. So you have to acquire that first. What you're doing in the gym anyway, by the way, has almost nothing to do with your body. This is a pure mind game. Raise your hand if you know this. So in the beginning here, get your body in order. Give yourself a respectable body so that you can look in the mirror and say, hey, I feel confident because I made this. I created this. My parents gave me my genetics. God gave me this time on earth, and then I could do whatever I wanted with it. And guess what I did? I made it strong. I made it fit. I made it healthy. I took care of it. And yeah, it was hard giving up sugar to some extent. It was hard, becoming disciplined and doing some of these things. And yeah, I found that I could do a crash course diet for a month, but 5 months, that's more permanent change. That's hard stuff to do. So the first game here is love yourself by taking care of your body because your body is going to take you everywhere you want to go in life. Kid you not, I've got a client of mine, a 6-figure client, and this dude is 55 years old and he is on top of the world. He's moving from his dream home in Miami to a $25 million dream home that's just a nicer, bigger dream home. This guy has done some of the coolest things on planet Earth, and he's had a couple of really great business exits. He's been very financially successful. And last week I was on the phone with him as he was obliterated, so upset because his retina detached in his eye. The doctors tried a procedure and he's blind and it didn't work. They tried the only last-ditch effort that has like a 60% chance of working and a 40% chance of not. And for the next 2 months, he can't move, he can't jostle his head, he has to basically lay flat, can't do anything. And he feels like he's lost his entire life. And if this doesn't work, he'll be legally blind out of one eye for the rest of his life. And for him, he's just sitting in this total devastation that one moment everything was good, and the next moment his world was turned upside down. The truth about your body is that when your body breaks down, when it breaks down, you're either going to be able to look at it and say, yeah, I caused that shit. Or you're going to say, like my friend, my retina detached. I was fit and healthy. I don't even know what I could have done for that. And so in life, you got to ask yourself, is your body break down because of how you treat your body? Is it going to support you as long as you want to live? I'm going to live to 140 years old. I'm going to live a really long time. Modern medicine caught up. We are there. They're extending the telomeres. They're doing cool stuff. I'm 45 years old. I'm going to live forever. I'm going to live a really long time. But only if I take care of the gear. Raise your hand if this is making sense, right? Now, by the way, I hope there's no shame or guilt or any of that. I'm really hoping that it's like, oh, why is Kris suggesting that this is first in the game if I want to make really good money? Because it turns out that the skills that you need to take care of your body are required to be a successful business owner or to win financially. To do what I do in the game of money, I'm liquidating $8 million of real estate right now. I'm just putting it in the bank. I'm doing it like that, the easiest thing I've ever done. And it's because I took the time to build the value. Well, how did I build the value? How did I get there? I'll tell you, it took commitment, discipline, long-term thinking, confidence. Do any of these things sound familiar? If you can do that in your body, it's going to show up in all of these areas. It affects everything. Just want to pause for a second and just ask, what are you hearing online? Are there gold nuggets? Are there takeaways? Are you feeling some fire? Are you feeling called to write some things down or kind of figure some things out? And then we're going to go to the next step of the blueprint.
Mary Jo says health before everything.
Health before
Denise says take care of your body. Henry says you have to put on your oxygen mask first.
Yeah. And for those of you here, what else are you picking up? We're hearing a big amen. Rocking. What else?
I'm hearing what I came here for.
What is that?
I came here to figure out how to get that fulfillment in life. And I understand where I'm failing, and I understand where to go with the help.
Yeah.
I found a starting point for me.
Good. Excellent. Happy to hear that, man. Awesome. What else are we getting?
Confirmation to exactly what you're saying.
All right. Getting some confirmation. Yeah. There's one thing I would recommend for everyone here. If you're going to show up and come to a live event, this is actually just a cool way of doing life. The greatest failure in life is the failure to participate. And there's a lot of people that have developed a comfort zone around kind of just playing in the middle group where it's just kind of safe and secure. But I know that Greg brought some people here that have some insane energy. And the only microphone that people online can hear is what's coming through my mic. But if you were brought here by Greg Kimball, would you guys just make some noise and show them your capability right now? Go. That's like 5 people making that sound right there. It's pretty loud. So that's an energy, and so I appreciate that. And if I give you an opportunity to participate, here's my recommendation. Participate. Yeah. Thank you. Anything else that you guys are kind of picking up from this first one? Because are we dropping some new information by saying that there's an order of what to go after if we want to make the money game easier? Is this new for some of you? Raise your hand if that's a little bit new. Yeah. For a lot of people it is. So the first one is get your health in order. And here's the cool thing about health. If you've never made more than $100,000 or $250,000 in a year, there's a really, really low likelihood that you're going to make $1 million in 90 days. But if you have not treated your body well, and you got with a coach, and you got the right system, and you got the right accountability, in 90 days, you could dramatically change your body. Does that make sense? You don't need to wait a long time to be able to create a really, really big impact. My buddy Ryan had 120 pounds to lose, and he did it in a year. It took him 9 months to lose 100 pounds. After that year, his life was never the same again, and he had a lot of weight to lose. So that's the cool thing of why do we start with the body? Because you can develop confidence fast. Compare that to starting a business. Is your business in 90 days going to blow your mind like what you can do with your body? Some of you in this room have never had abs, but some of you are 90 days away from abs. Right? Like what is it? Like 1 in 20,000 people in this country have abs? It's like, that's 90 days away from now. So there's a quick payoff. And if you can not just get there, but if you can make it your life to hold it, it's not going to benefit your whole life alone. It's also going to start showing you a pattern of what you need to play harder games. Here's the next game of love or God. What do you think is number 2 on my list? Raise your hand if you think love. Raise your hand if you think God. Wow, everyone went God on that one. Now, why am I putting God second to health? I'm such a heathen. Why would I do that? Why would I do that?
I think it's because we have, we gotta put on our oxygen mask, as someone said, or get in the lifeboat.
We got to get in the lifeboat, or we got to get our oxygen masks on. For those of you online, I want to hear from you as well. Why am I putting health before God? How can I serve God if I have a shitty vessel? If I am not taking care of this thing, how am I going to be able to show up? And so the reason why health comes first is because in my priorities of life, I put me before God. And I want to define what I mean by that. I have an order of relationships of who I'm taking care of in my life. And I just want to share this. By the way, I am not suggesting that I'm right. I'm not sharing universal truth. I'm literally just sharing Christopher, right? But here's my priorities when it comes to my relationships. There's me, there's God, there's my wife, there's my kids, and then I start stepping into my greater community. This is the order that I choose to do this. Now, the reason why I do this is because I do want to put the oxygen mask on first, Tyler. And it's like if I'm going to connect to God, I have to have something to bring God. So every day I have a routine on how I take care of myself. I'm reading books, I'm going to the gym, I'm working out my heart, I'm working on the two things that produce longevity. It's not NAD, it's not vitamins, and it's not supplements. The two things that determine your lifespan right now comes down to two things. It is strength and your VO2 levels. So literally, how much can you lift and how strong is your lung capacity compared to your heart? That's it. So there's a number of things that I'm doing every day to invest in myself so that when I get to God, I got something to bring. I've got energy and I've got excitement, I've got life. So health is a way to prioritize ourselves and just say, hey, I got to get the vessel in good shape so that I can connect. When it comes to the game of God, we got different people in the room, we got different belief systems. To just be totally clear, I am not speaking about religion. I'm speaking more to spirituality, right? In the game of religion, people tell you what to believe. They tell you what the belief system is. Often we're focusing on a game of obedience. In the game of spirituality, we are connecting with God in here, not out here. We're not going to a building. We're coming within ourselves, and we recognize that God has the power to speak to all of us. And I just want to prove it for a second. For those of you online and for those of you in the audience here, if you've ever felt God move through you, and you felt like you received divine message or download or promptings or feelings from the divine, raise your hand or drop a 4 in the chat online. I've got just about every hand up here in person. And online, Carson, how many 4s are we seeing dropping in the chat?
4, 4, 4, 4, 4, 4. There's quite a few.
See, I don't need to convince anyone here. We don't have to have the conversation of, is there a God? But here's the conversation that I would have with you. What is your relationship with God? Is it, I have an awareness that there's a God? Is it, I have a relationship with God? Is it, I'm just believing? Or is it, I have a knowing? And I'm gonna suggest something very specific for everyone here tonight. My current definition of my relationship with God is that every day I spend between 30 and 60 minutes of meditation, and I practice something called channeling, which means when I speak to God, I listen and I receive words back. And it took years to learn how to do meditation where I could have conversations with God. By the way, that's the name of another good book to write down, Conversations with God. It's a common, everyday thing that I experience, but it took something to learn how to get there. And if there's any one of you here that would like to understand more of my approach of how I talk to God, because I'll tell you what it's not. I don't get on my knees and then vocalize a prayer, and when I'm done talking, I say amen and then I walk away. When I say I have a conversation, it's that I drop into an altered state where I can feel the presence of the divine, and then I speak and ask questions, and then I listen and I write down my answers, and then I speak and ask questions, and we have conversation. So from the last years, my journal is filled up with hundreds of pages of just my divine conversations. What's great about that, and the reason why that's my definition, is because I'm looking for God when I'm trying to figure out what to do in business, what to do in my home life, how to overcome a problem or a challenge, or how to just sit in the divine and just appreciate it, how to step into a deeper level of peace. How do I solve shit? How do I figure out my life? How do I live my life to the best of my ability? That's a thing between me and God, and I can tell you that my meditation is the most important thing that I do every day. So if you looked at me and say, Kris, do you pray? I would probably say no. I do, but my game is meditation. My game is I want to talk with Father, I want to talk with Mother, and I want to connect to my higher self. I want to connect to my guides, I want to connect to my guardians, and I want to receive the information that I need to live my best life possible. Plain and simple. The biggest question is, what is the highest and best use of my life right now? What do I need right now? What is the message I need to hear right now? This is how I heal. This is how I overcome. This is how I face, and this is how I sequence what I'm supposed to do in life. Is there anyone here, by the way, that would like, I have a guided meditation that I give people. Is there anyone here that would like to get my guided meditation for free to give it a whirl and see if there's something useful there for you? So Carson, if you can make a note for everyone online and everyone here in person, anyone that registered, if tomorrow we can have our marketing team send out my meditations, and that way you guys have something to maybe try, see if it's your jam, see if it's something that works for you. Is that okay? Here's the game of God, though. The word here for me is revelation. My life has a purpose. I'm here right now for a reason. I need to find a way to interact with the divine so that I can get that information. Does that make sense? Is it a harder game to play than health? Probably not for everyone, but I would say in general, I think that's a harder game. Are you kidding me? The game of, I go to the gym and I can see my muscle and I can see my progress and I can see what's working. In this game, there's faith. There's an educational sequence. I would have to learn how to get into that gap, connect, feel something, and communicate to receive something. This game for me is definitely harder, but why does it come before money, based on what I've shared? Why does God come before money? Because money's a byproduct. What else? Money is an energy. Ooh, that just got deep real fast.
I just want to say one thing real quick about the meditation. I've been doing your Mind Palace meditation for the last 3 weeks. And it's not hyperbole to say that that has changed my life in the way that I look at myself, the way that I look at God. I say it to everyone. I'm like, you gotta try this meditation. Like really, it's incredible.
All right. Well, I appreciate that. I appreciate that. And everyone will get it. They can try it out. But what I want to share with you is that I love what Tyler said, that it is an energy. I'm going to use a slightly different word. It's a frequency. See, what am I actually doing when I'm actually meditating? I'm asking questions and I'm getting answers. But this is actually very deeply connected to manifestation. What is manifesting? What is manifesting? It's the ability to generate or create something new that never existed that you're calling into your life. So when you do New Year's resolutions, you're like, I want to double my income. You're attempting to manifest something that you have not yet done. Or if you're saying, I want 10% body fat. I've never been there before. I'm attempting to produce an outcome that I've never produced before. My wife and I are on the rocks. I want to figure out how to patch it up. I want to manifest a better love life. Raise your hand if that makes sense. This being able to talk to God is about learning how to get into frequencies. And the reason why I'm so addicted to my daily meditations, no one asked me to do it. I don't have to check off a list. I got no one to report to. You can't keep me from doing my meditation, because in my meditation, I am practicing different energetic fields, and I'll make it really simple because I don't want to come across, I want to be relatable. If I'm trying to manifest an amount of money that I haven't before, or a specific outcome, like I want to manifest a men's group where I can help 10 men step into their masculinity and achieve life at a higher level. Let's just say that's something that you're going after. Right now, I have no men. I'm looking for 10 men. I've never done this before. I've never led a men's group before. So for you, you're manifesting something. But if you, no different than an Olympian, would go into a space where you can practice what you want as if it's already happened, where you can visualize it and see it, by doing that, you would generate a frequency. You would create a frequency surrounded by energy and feelings for what it would be like to have that. And if you could practice that enough in your meditation, then when you go into the real world, the universe is going to start, you're going to start seeing that frequency matches in that dude, in that opportunity, in that email, in this text, in that phone call. And so you start doing the things that match the frequency, and then all of a sudden, the men start gathering and coming, and you start actually seeing this reality. Now, just to be really quick, and I don't mean for this to sound arrogant, but I have done $2 billion worth of real estate. I do live in a 30,000 square foot house. I do own private jets. I have traveled around the world. And while those things don't define me, every one of them came into being by what I'm talking about right now. In other words, I don't go into the work field and work my ass off like the rest of people that are like, ignore this stuff, work on this. Just work hard on this. I didn't get those things because I worked hard, because I actually don't believe in working hard. You know what the problem is with working hard? I watched my dad work hard. I watched my dad tell me not to be an entrepreneur because he said it was going to be very hard and very difficult, and it'd be better to go to college and get a degree and basically work for Microsoft or some other company. And I'll tell you, I don't believe in working hard. What's wrong with working hard? Look at the world that we live in today. Right now, look at the cost of bread, the cost of gas, the cost of things. Look at what inflation has done in the last 5 years since the scandemic. If you understand the world that we live in, everything costs a lot more. Rents 10 years ago, for a basic house were $1,400 a month. Now they're $2,400 a month. Everything costs a lot more. You're seriously going to get a second job or work harder to solve that problem? That's the dumbest approach to solving that problem. It's the hardest approach, because if you use that approach, you'll dedicate even more time to money. And what's going to happen to your love life, your health life, and your God life? Is it going to go up or down? That's the world we live in today. We're already inverted. We are upside down, and right now we're completely out of balance. So my game is, I don't want to work harder. I have to work what? I have to play a smart game. Just as a little side note, in one of the books that you're going to read, Carson, will you make sure that they also include my Krohn Consortium track record in that whole bundle? Because I doubt it's in there. And the reason why is because we just did a study on my last 2,130 rentals. And for the last decade, I'm averaging 60% per annum on my money. 60%. Now, a 401k's 21 average that was published last year is 4.2. So I am outperforming a 401k, kid you not, 91 to 1 over 20 years. That's just called smart. If you're going to stupid save money in a 401k that you know won't accumulate, because 4.2 doesn't compound. You would need 7 lifetimes for that to meaningfully compound. You need to enter double digits, over 20%, before in a 40-year working life, money can compound meaningfully. This is the dumbest math that humans should know by 5th grade and don't understand, because this is not hard math. This is really simple. We are blindly following societal's norms so that we can have low risk and feel good about ourselves, and those are the decisions that tank us and hurt us the most. The $8 million that I'm extracting from real estate right now as we speak, I just started making phone calls 2 weeks ago, is because I own a lot of really valuable real estate, and I have partners that I can bring into that game at an accelerated rate, and I'm taking that money off the table because I have other investments and things that I want to do, because I don't want to trade my time for money. I want to trade my money for more money, because your money's supposed to work for you, just like Warren Buffett teaches. True or false? Okay, so if you want to figure out this game, the reason why the God game comes first is what? If you exclude God from the game of money, do you know what your number one tool for decision making will be in business and at work? It's going to be logic. And I'm just going to tell you right now, your logic, of all of your tools, your logic is your worst tool. They say our brain is what disconnects us and separates us from the animal kingdom and makes us so special. I think your brain is what is screwing you over out of the things in life that you want. Your brain keeps you from getting these things because, number one, your brain's not your heart, and it doesn't want to be happy. It wants to be logical. It wants to be rational. But logical, rational, with low levels of risk, where does that get people in retirement? Not enough money. Your brain brought you that, by the way. 254,000 of not enough money, a tenth of what you need for the next 30 years, brought to you by your magical, mystical brain. One of the books that I gave you in the download is called Time Machine. And in that book, the reason why I share that one with you is because I share 5 tools for how I make decisions. And the first tool that I'm going to talk about is your brain. And the very first thing I'm going to tell you is that if you take advice from it, you'll just get more of what you've gotten. So what you're supposed to do is leverage other people's brains. To stop, like, unless you like, this is very simple. If you like a result that you're getting, use your brain. If you don't like a result that you're getting, do not use your brain, use someone else's. And then I'm going to share with you 4 superior tools to a brain. The last of one is called your intuition. And it just happens to do with your ability to connect to God and ask the divine questions and getting inspirations from something that defies timeline, something that defies, for sure, rationale and logic. So if you wanted to make more money, I would say figure out how to not believe in a God or how to have a 2-hour worship service once a week on Sunday. I would say get a real relationship with God where you really can daily ask questions and get answers. That's what I mean here. I'm not talking religion. Does that make sense? Let's pause on this one before we go to number 3. What kind of gold nuggets or takeaways are we getting from this conversation? Participate.
People are underestimating their ability to manifest and their faith. I need a more consistent communication with God.
More consistent communication with God.
I feel really good. Of the 2 of the 4 I said earlier.
Which were your 2?
God and love.
God and love are the 2 that you feel like you're accelerating at.
Yes.
Got it.
I feel like I'm accelerating regularly in the other 2, but I'm not where I want to be. You said, are you killing it?
Yes.
I'm not killing it in my health. I'm not killing it money. I'm definitely accelerating in the right direction with those. But the conversations with God, like I'm looking forward to checking out your meditations and learning how to have a more consistent 2-way conversation with God.
I love that. And here's the cool part about it. If you place God before money, you came here and you said, Kris, I actually want to get to know you, and I'm kind of curious about the way that you do the game of money because you've done $2 billion in real estate. I've done $100 million. So you're looking for more. Here's the weird part. If you insert God into the equation, I want to share with you just 2 things that could happen there.
Okay?
The first thing that could happen is that God might say, oh my gosh, you've been using such lame business models. Thank you for finally coming to me. Will you just change these 3 little things and then we can actually go 10 times faster?
That'd be great.
That literally might be what God wants to reveal to you. But God might also say, oh, you want to produce 10 times more. You are such a naive little child. I have a different plan for you. Thank you for connecting with me. Why don't you put your intentions over here? And if you follow the fulfillment, your bank account may not change, but your purpose of life will.
I would love that clarity.
Yeah, so the cool thing is it's just like, by the way, and I believe that God is an abundant God. And I believe that God cares less about right and wrong and cares more about learning. And I believe that God loves to help us achieve the things that we want and then put his really cool spin on taking us where life is really meant to lead us.
Amen.
All right, give it up for him, guys. That was a good one. Let's get a couple more. Carson, do you have something online?
Denise says, your thoughts will lie to you. Let them go.
Thank you, Denise. There's a really great book. Guys, tonight I'm just full of book recommendations. Here's another one. Don't believe every thought you think. Don't believe every thought you think. That's the title of a book. It's also a really great idea. And what's really fantastic about that book is it's going to teach you something I believe in, which is how to turn your brain off. Out of curiosity, how many of you online and how many of you here feel like your brain is running more of your life and you can't quite turn the chatter off and it's always going a little too much? You feel that? Enough of you, real quick, Carson, do we have our friends online that are feeling that way as well?
Yes, says Jason. Yes, says Leslie. Sometimes says Brandon. Olga, yes. Brandon, less now.
All right. My wife makes fun of me because I love to tell people that I can show you how to not use your brain. Because she just thinks that's kind of funny. But I'm going to take a moment. I want to actually show you something that was a huge game changer for me that made me a lot more money and, more importantly, a lot more fulfillment. Can I share that with you? So 5.5 years ago, my very best friend, one of the top 100 YouTubers in the entire world, Grant Thompson, died in a tragic paragliding accident. And he left his wife and his 4 kids behind. And this was my 3rd friend to lose that year. And it was just like, all of my buddies are like in their late 30s. He was 38 years old. I'm like, why is this happening? And I felt like God was really reaching out through the veil and just saying, I need you to pay attention a little different to your life, because Grant did something really weird. He had been a workaholic like his entire life. There was a reason why he was one of the top 100 YouTubers. There's a reason why he had over 1 billion views on all of his videos. And there's a reason why he made millions of dollars doing what he did. He was passionate, but he worked his ass off. And as I got to know him years ago, we connected on his philosophy. And then 9 months before he died, he did something really weird. In under 30 days, he handed his entire company off and to other talent and other people, and he moved his family down south and spent the last 9 months of his life. I'm sure he probably thought the rest of his life, but it only ended up being 9 months. He spent the last 9 months of his life just being a dad with his kids. And so it kind of got me thinking, Kris, you've got more money than Grant. Why can't you give yourself permission to do what he did? And I pulled out a blank pen and paper, and I decided I wanted to live my life differently, because I was still waiting for permission to live a better life. I told myself I needed more money, I needed more outcome, I needed more success, and if I could have that, then I could give myself permission to have even more of what I want. And I said, screw that. I'm going to start getting everything I want day one. And what I did is I created an ultimate calendar for myself that has very much to do with my brain. I said, I am going to work on Mondays, I'm going to shoot videos. Tuesday and Thursday, I'm going to work from home, and that's my work week. So I'm going to work 25 hours. Wednesday is going to be Wife Wednesday. That's me and my best friend literally just playing. And we've done some crazy stuff. We got on my jet. We went to California and did Disneyland for a day, but came back home and slept in our own beds. Like, we would do some magical stuff. Took the helicopter and went out to, this mountain, and we mined topaz, out of it, and fed my wife's love of crystals. We just went on these crazy wild adventures. We decided that Friday was my kids' day, Saturday was my day, and Sunday was God's day. And so I created a 3-day work week and created a schedule that I love. But here's the real part that I want to just tell you real quick. I gave my brain office hours. Before 9 a.m., I don't do any critical thinking. I don't respond to text. I don't look at emails. I don't do any of that before 9. Because the moment I do, what happens to my brain? What's it going to do the moment you start thinking about work and business and logistics and life and the things that you have to do? What happens the moment you start doing that? Your brain is going to go. It's going to be turned on. It's like, oh, we're go time again. It's 4:30 in the morning. Let's go. And let's start thinking and start processing how we're going to do things. But you know what it meant? It meant that because I did that, by the time I would get to the very end of the day at 11 p.m., my brain wouldn't shut off. And sometimes I wouldn't fall asleep till midnight or 1 in the morning, only to be awakened by my brain again. It sucks to have your brain on all the time. And it took me 6 months to retrain my brain. And I had to literally lock my phone away so that I couldn't access it. I gave it to my wife, and here were my hours. I can critically think on business days between 9 and 5. I get 25 hours a week with my brain, and outside of that, I don't use it. Because what happens when you're not thinking? When you're not a human thinker, you become a human being. And then you do focus on feeling. These fulfillment energies, love, joy, play, connection, there's time for all that stuff. By the way, I think that emotional intelligence trumps knowledge any day of the week. I am not here for knowledge. And I like to read books and I like to acquire knowledge, but it is a total backseat to the game of life, because if you look at the moments in life that mean the most to you, there's a tear, or there's a smile, or there's a warmth, there's a feeling. You're not thinking, you're not analyzing, and you're not studying spreadsheets. Those things actually keep us from being beings and being human thinkers. So you may want to set up office hours for your brain and decide what your brain is and is not allowed to do, because when I did that, my fulfillment shot through the roof. And I learned something else really weird. My brain didn't need more time to come up with all of the ideas that I needed to make more money. I was actually just thinking of the same shit over and over again. There was anything ever new getting in there. I was just repeating the same thoughts and the same ideas, and I was like, what a waste. That was a huge tangent, but did anyone get something there worth trying out or looking at a little bit? If you want your fulfillment to go up, you got to learn how to control that brain. Don't believe every thought you think. All right. The third one that we're talking about tonight is we're talking about the game of love. The game of what? Love. Now, this is a complicated game. I find that most people suck at it. There's a reason why we have a high divorce rate. There's a reason why people are unhappy in their relationships. If you're in a committed relationship, drop a 5 in the chat or raise your physical hand if you're in a committed relationship with someone. Literally just about every single person here in the group. I want to ask you a really funky question, okay? This is a weird one. You know when you're talking to your spouse because you're trying to solve for dysfunction in your relationship? Raise your hand if you know what I'm talking about. Those conversations like, you don't do this, and I thought you were going to do this, and why can't it be more like this way, and I wanted this need, and it wasn't met. You guys know what I'm talking about when you're having conversations about the relationship not being up to par and you're trying to fix it? Raise your hand if you know exactly what I'm talking about. Those online, yeah? Here's my question. When you're spending time with your spouse, what percentage of it, what percent of your time with your spouse is spent fixing your broken dysfunction versus just enjoying and being and loving and growing and creating and experiencing? I want to hear from some of you your percentage. What percentage is on the dysfunction and what percentage is on the actual enjoying of the institution of a relationship? And guys online, the gals, drop me a percentage. Make the first number the dysfunction, make the second number obviously enjoying all of the good merits and beauties of being married and in your committed relationship. Let's hear some numbers. Go ahead. It used to be 99%. What's dysfunctional? And what is it right now? 5 to 10%. That's winning right there. You figure, by the way, did you have to figure out all of the dysfunction before you could get there, or did you simply learn how to prioritize what you wanted first? Got some coaching. Most people actually need that, okay? Let's get some other percentages. Go ahead.
Oh, I did marriage counseling as well, so now it's much better.
Now it's much better, but what was it originally and what is it now?
Originally it was like 90.
90% was we're dysfunctional, and now?
Now like 5, 10.
5-10%. I love that. Beautiful. By the way, give both these men a huge congratulations. That's beautiful. I love that. There's no right and wrong on this because this is just truth by fire of just acknowledging what is. Let's just start tossing out some of the percentages. Don't raise your hand, just toss them out. I want to hear them.
80-20, 70-30, 50, 90-10, 50-50.
So online with what we're getting, more than half of those relationships, more than half of the time are actually being spent trying to work on the dysfunction. Let's call out some names here locally. What do we got? Just some numbers. Give me the number of dysfunction though, just to make it really easy. 5, 60, 10, 10, 85, 20, 15. Okay, so we're getting a wide range. Some of you are on the, this dominates my time, and the others are like, we're playing and we're having fun. The measure, right here, the measure of where you're at in your love game, I think tightly correlates to that conversation. Women and men have different needs, true or false? And we're not going to get into the deep stereotypes. There's a book I love because I'm recommending books tonight. His Needs, Her Needs. That's a spouse read. Like, read that one with your spouse. I don't care how many books you've read on marriage. If you haven't read that one, that's a fantastic book to do as a couple. His Needs, Her Needs. It's going to say that women have 5 needs and men have 5 needs. And it's not like the love languages where you have to decode your partners. It's like, no, men are this way and women are that way. This is the way we are. Women have a need for conversation. And for the ladies in the room, how many of you need talk time with your guy? Raise your hand if that's true for you. Yeah. Scientifically, according to this book, they ran a study and they said that women need a minimum of 15 hours a week to talk. And if they don't get that, the relationship is going to suffer. And I'm saying that because some of the men here don't give their women that talk time and their relationship may in fact be suffering, but that's a generalization. So if you're going to spend 15 hours a week talking, if 85% of it, my guy, if 13 of the 15 hours is going to be spent talking about the shit in the relationship and the heavy, then how you do something is how you do everything. How you get somewhere is how you'll be when you get there. It's like the road to Hana. It's like how we get to the destination. So wherever you're going with your honey, if 85% of the time is talking about what isn't working and it's been that way for a long time, go get some counseling. Stop doing it on your own. You suck at it. She sucks at it. You guys can't figure it out. Change the pattern, because there's a really cool lesson in life in this. If what you're doing isn't working, that's a pattern, and patterns repeat. So don't think, well, no, we'll just try it different next time. Or no, we're gonna talk better. It's like, no, it's not working. My guy, go get some help so that you can be one of these other dudes that's like, it used to be 90% of the time, now it's 5 or 10% of the time because we figured that out. Because if you want to have a really great love life, if you want to have a really great relationship and you want everyone to be happy and you're not, first of all, go read that book and start reading books. Like, start reading books about the things that aren't working for you. Number two, don't do it yourself. You and your honey, you ain't figuring it out. It's pretty obvious. So go get some help. That's a second principle. And the last one here is use your conversations of love as an indication of where you are in your relationship. Actually, having a great relationship is super easy. Like, it turns out it's really, really, really simple. He got needs, she got needs. Or maybe it's a he and a he and a she and a she. But you both have two different sets of needs, right? If both parties are committed to taking care of each other's needs, you're gonna have a good relationship. When relationships go off the rails, it usually comes down to one word. Does anyone know what the one word is? One word. It's not communication. It's selfishness. There's only one reason why the relationship isn't good. One or both parties are being selfish. And they say it takes two to tango, but that's bullshit. It just takes one person to be selfish to ruin everything for both people. And so if there's selfishness, go get some help, read some books, and do something. Because you think this game is gonna work out when you got drama in that game? If love is a hard game for you and you're trying to figure out how to make more money, which would I prioritize? Fix your relationship. And I just gave you, I think, some really elementary but super useful advice. Get a relationship coach. Read. And stop doing what doesn't work. All right. What are the skills you learn here that apply to here? Like, literally, if you're like, dude, my marriage is freaking awesome. Not only does that reduce the drama and make it easier to put energy into a business, your financial investments, but what are the skills that you're actually learning about that help you actually be better in business? Selflessness, hugely. Teamwork. Generosity. Online, Carson, are we getting anything from our chat? What else are you guys getting in the game of love that is going to aid you in the game of money?
Brandon says the other party has needs. Richard says selfishness is the killer of relationships.
Yes. By the way, I want to give you one more book recommendation that I love. This one is just for the dudes. I apologize, ladies. But it's called The Married Game by Keith Yackey. That is probably my favorite book on understanding that marriage is a game. Both parties do play it differently. And that dude figured some serious stuff out. And I think he's articulated a little crass, but really, really well. And I think he's super dialed in. So can't help it today. We just got a lot of books. I'm reading all the time. Leaders are readers. And if you're not reading a couple books a month, this thing is not being leveraged the way it was intended to. Go ahead.
Did you say The Married Game?
The Married Game. He's committed by the end of next week to have it on Audible, but if you look up Keith Yackey, you'll find it. Yeah, he's got it on like speaker.com. He's got it on a couple other platforms, but he doesn't have it on some of the mainstream. Yeah. Okay. Once we figure out health, God, love, here's my experience. The money game starts working because you got your priorities lined up and you got the things that matter. By the way, if you do this out of order and you're rocking the money game, by the way, if you feel like you're growing in the money game, raise your hand. Keep that hand up right now. So some of you here, but also keep your hand up. But raise your other hand only if you feel like you're struggling in the love game. I saw some hands go up, so you can put your hands down. I just want to say this one little thing. If love is struggling and money's growing, you're inverted. And unless you want to wind up divorced and alone or in a really sad, miserable, spot, you may want to just check your priorities for you and just ask what really matters. When my daughter tried to take her life, it put me on a very different path in life. Because up into that game, I had spent the last 20 years chasing more achievement, more money, more success, more real estate, more wealth, more businesses, more private equity, more of everything. And for the most part, I could get myself in any mastermind, in any room, take any stage, and people were going to want to hear what I had to say. I was killing it in that game. But I also had an opportunity from what I experienced with my daughter to figure out in life some things that mattered way more. And in the last 2 years, I've been through a really big dramatic change where I really don't value money. And what I really value is my time in nature, my time with God, my time with family. More money is just more money, but it is not adding meaning. It is not adding fulfillment. It is not adding purpose. I told myself a lot of bullshit, like I needed to leave a legacy or that I needed to be remembered after I died. And it turns out I actually don't believe any of those things matter. The things that I want in life are not tomorrow, they're today. And the things that I live for right now in my life, I live for love, I live for play, I live for fun, I live for silly, I live for making memories, I live for doing things that I've never done before, I live for the novel, I live for revelation. None of those things I mentioned take money. And today I've rebranded myself online as the Millionaire Minimalist because I'm trying to ignite my movement to understand that you don't need your assets to mature and grow to a certain level before you can give yourself truly permission today to live the life that you want. Everything that I'm enjoying today, I can have when I'm poor, middle class, or ultra wealthy. So today's conversation is really one of priorities. And because I know many of you follow me or you participate with Greg because you do want balance in your life, but you are trying to figure out the money game, today I wanted to share with you something I've never shared before. This is my personal blueprint, and it's an order priority of what really matters. And here's the cool thing. If you never figure the money game out and you're only average at best your entire life, if you're only average at best your entire life, tell me about this person in retirement. Are they happy, yes or no? Are they living love? Yes. Are they connected to the spiritual side of life? Yeah. Do they have their health that they can enjoy? They say an unhealthy person has one wish. Yes. And a rich person would trade all of their money for that one thing. So this game of priorities, I think in our world today, we get it upside down, inverted, upside down, and backwards. And tonight was really me coming together. I'm not exactly sure what Greg's portion would have been. I know it would have been amazing and fun. We're going to pray him out at the end of the evening so that his body heals. But I wanted to drop this on you guys, and I want to open it up now for just some comments, maybe some Q&A. What are you learning? And then also, how do you figure out how to implement that in the game of life? So drop those comments online. Do me a favor, drop a comment or a question as we get ready to move into some Q&A, and then I'd love to hear from some of you here. And Ethan, if you've got my microphone going, let me see Orion. We're going to start right here in the back. Give us your name.
My name is Henry. I'm from New York originally. I'm just here for the week, really.
Awesome.
Anyway, why do you think people have their priorities backwards?
Because you can see what people prioritize in their spending and in their calendar. And I can tell you that most of the people that we query and we research and we kind of figure out where they're at in their life, most of them are exactly what you saw here in this room. I asked a question, are you killing it in 1, 2, 3, or 4 areas? The mean that I saw here is probably a 1.6. That's probably high. So here's what I can tell you. They're lacking relationship fulfillment. They're lacking health. They're lacking spiritual fulfillment, or they're lacking money. And they're lacking that in at least 2 of these 4 categories. And some in this room are missing it in all 4 categories. What we saw here in this room is what I typically see just anywhere that I travel or when I speak in large rooms. I think it's very common. So I think the problem as a whole is that we are in a patriarchal society. And I think that even though we're still a very male-driven society, The majority of men, when you figure out of those 4 areas, which ones they excel the most in, it's money. But the reason why they're lacking of fulfillment is because they're ignoring 1, 2, or 3 of the other areas of life.
Thank you. And for the people lacking money, right? Money becomes this lucrative thing that people chase. What do you say to them when they came from nothing? They have the opportunity to actually be happy, but you always want more. You always want more. What do you like? How do you guide that person?
Yeah. So that's where I came from. I wouldn't say my parents were poor, but my parents were low middle class. And with 9 kids, my parents were always financially struggling. And that's what inspired me to want to figure out the game of money and do it very well, is because I came from that financial situation. It's interesting. I always put people financially into one of 3 categories. At this time in your life, you're either penny pinching, you're spending money recklessly, irresponsibly, or you're an investor. There's only 3 categories. And if we look at those 3 categories, the penny pinchers are usually the least happy of the 3 because they refuse to spend money, and their mantra is, we have money because we don't spend money. But they won't spend $60 to catch a cheap flight to Phoenix for a couple of days to pursue a passion. And so the penny pinchers are usually devoid of the most life experience. They have the most sticks shoved up to their ass. They're usually the most responsible in life. They're often the most boring people, the least colorful, and they've done the least with their life. And in 40 years, you can't save enough money for retirement. So when they get there, they learn the truth as well. We have more money than those that don't, but it's still not enough. So there's a problem with that category. The second category is the reckless spender. This person, the people that aren't really good with money are often much happier than the penny pincher because they will go to the concert and they will spend money on food and pleasure, and they're going to try to, get the latest video game and binge on it and have some fun with it. They're more interested. They're not trying to get ahead. They're actually just trying to enjoy some of the basic opportunities that life has to offer. The investor tends to usually be the most balanced. The investor is the one that has the ability to realize that they're saving money to invest it because they want their money to perform for them. So now they go to work and their money goes to work, and they wind up with the most money. These individuals, they don't have the basic opportunities of life like the penny pincher. They usually access the greater opportunities of life. Like when I took a private jet down with my kids to the Galapagos, and we rented a $5 million yacht for the week, and we had a private naturalist crew feeding us, taking us around to all these islands, seeing some of like the only wonders that you can see in that part of the world. That was an incredible experience. That experience came at a cost, and I was able to pay for that cost because I'm an investor. No penny pincher would have ever been able to afford that. No reckless spender would have been able to afford that. So what I'm trying to inspire people to do in general is to become an investor, which means you got to play the long game, not just a short game, and you've got to get educated on money so you can be more intelligent with it.
I can keep going.
We'll take a few more and we'll circle back to this. Thank you. I appreciate it. All right, Carson, let's real quick come online to some of the questions that we have and comments.
HP says, I feel like I have balance in all these things. However, if I had more money, it would allow me to go deeper in the other 3. A sense of unfulfillment. How do you balance this?
Yeah, I said that the hardest question for humans to answer is, what do you want? It is a rarity for me to ask someone, oh, tell me about you, what do you want? And they can't say anything often for 30 seconds or a minute. And then when they start speaking, it's obvious that they haven't put any thought into it. And I'm like, you have 168 hours every single week on God's green earth. And out of all of the years that you spent here, you haven't really figured out what you want. But I'll tell you how you do figure that out. If you want fulfillment, you have to answer the question, what do you want? And to figure out what you want, there's only one way to get to that answer. Time for contemplation. Which means I recommend that people every year take at least one day out of their life, go sit in nature for an entire day without any distraction, and just meditate on the idea of what is it that I want in each of these 4 areas of life. I've been doing this every year for the last 20 years, and I get very clear each year for my season of life, what do I want in the game of love, money, the game of health, and the game of God? And that's what gives me direction for the year. The other thing is, I also am really clear on what I want 20 years from now. If you pay $7,000 and go to Tony Robbins' Date with Destiny, he'll teach you that successful people think in decades and that most people only think in 1 year. And that's a very short-term way of thinking. Well, I've got a goal for the year, and we overestimate what we can do in a year, and we massively underestimate what we can do in a decade. And so taking time just to figure out who you are and what you want is more important than trying to implement an empty goal of, I want to make more money. Well, tell me, how is that going to drive you and motivate you to stick with it when you're not convicted by it because you don't know why? Well, I just have more money in the bank. No, that is not a strong enough conviction to feed that. But if you're taking care of these other priorities, you start to feel the conviction. So take some time for pondering. Great question. Let's do one here from the audience again. We're going to come right here. Oh, were you going to be next?
Yeah, well, all good.
No, well, I'll hit him right after. Go ahead.
Okay, super. Well, you said you're the scale guy. So in these 4 categories, how can we consistently scale in these throughout our life and not stagnate?
That's an interesting question. How do we scale? I don't know if love, health, and God are necessarily meant to be scaled, but rather transformed. Businesses can be scaled. My friend here has done a couple hundred real estate deals, $100 million worth, and he wants to know maybe, how do I scale in the next 5 years to do 10 times more I did in the previous 5 years? That's a scale question. He's going to have to think different. He's going to have to operate different. He's going to have to hire people different. He's going to have to do a lot of things different to create scale. I really don't think that love, health, and God require scale. They're a game of transformation, which is, what do I need for my health right now? So I've done 3 different bodybuilding competitions, and I canceled my 4th one because the approach to preparing for a competition is actually extremely unhealthy. I enjoyed the game. I got what I needed out of the game. Now I'm playing that game differently. I have different goals and I want different things. So I'm not adding to being a bodybuilder. I'm changing because I want something different from that period of time. Also, as love matures, my relationship might need something different right now than it needed last year. And so we're going to focus on that difference. So I think this is more of a game of transformation than scale. Great question. Thank you. We're going to go right here, Carson, then we'll grab one online.
Hey, Kris. I came here tonight because I wanted to ask about finding purpose and direction in life.
Yeah.
And a little bit of background. 2 weeks ago, if you had asked, what do you want? I felt like I had it in my head. Like, I thought about it, I meditated, I came up with a plan, and I started to execute. I have a business under contract right now. It's supposed to close August 15th. I have a house that I'm selling in order to buy the business. It's supposed to sell August 10th. And 12 days ago, I went to the temple and I spent time with God and I said, God, as the leader of my family, I want to do what's right. And very clearly he told me to keep my family in Utah. The business is off in Washington. And so I felt like I had all these grand plans and I said, I know what I want to do. I know where I'm going. I'm doing the work to do it. I'm going to quit my job. I'm going to go to business. And then when God said, no, like, this is not the plan for you, I was like, crap. Like what? Like I had a plan and now I'm back to like going to the plan again. Any advice on finding a good path forward and doing the right thing? I would love some insight.
Well, the first one I would ask is, did God really say no? Or did God give you standards?
The answer wasn't no to buying the business, but it was very clear. Like, I know what God feels like, right? I know when God speaks to me. And his answer was, my family's to be kept in Utah.
Yeah.
I don't think I can buy the business and not move there. It's not in a position that it can be run remotely, but I do know that God wants my family in Utah.
Yeah.
I don't know how else to say. I know that is for sure.
Do you want to argue with God?
No, there was a guy in the Bible that was in the belly of a whale, and I don't want to do that. So, no, I can't argue with it.
So instead of taking issue with this, I would probably go immediately to a space of gratitude and say, wow, I was doing my best on my own to find my path, and then I let God weigh in, and God took me a different direction. I wonder where that gets to go next. Curiosity, excitement, rather than disappointment and maybe let down. Because you're the author of the interpretation of how you view your experiences. That is its own lesson for another day. But literally, you could come up to this stage and you could smack me as hard as possible on the face. I've invited people to do this in my events. And then I ask the audience what they think I should do. Should I punch him back? Should I get angry? Should I yell? Should I rage? Should I give him a hug? Should I give him a kiss? Like, what should I do? And all I can tell you is that you are the author. And so you're choosing an interpretation that could be less healthy than a different one. So I would just sit down and just say, okay, God, I want to sit down with you because it's kind of cool. We should always question whether we're getting the right message or the wrong message. Most people take home the wrong message. How do I know it's the wrong message? If you ever learn something that leads you to feel bad after, you usually didn't get the message. And so when something doesn't work, humans are really quick to say, I failed. And I don't do that. The only failure is the failure to learn. Because if I can enjoy the learning and the lesson more than the outcome I was trying to get, I'm going to love every bit of my life and I'll never be a failure. Failure only comes when we choose an interpretation or a story that doesn't serve us. So I would sit with God a little bit longer and say, hey, God, I was pursuing this. I was looking at this, selling my house. I want to do this. I'm getting the instruction to say here, first of all, thank you. I'm going to honor that. And what's the greater lesson? Oh, I need to look for Utah businesses. Thank you. Or businesses that scale nationwide or that work remote. Wow. Thank you for giving me the clues that I needed to choose more of what I needed in my life rather than trust my own understanding. I think that God just gave you a great gift. I would interpret it as one.
Thanks, Kris.
Yeah. All right. Carson, let's go online.
Sterling online, Valerie said, what's the business? I may be able to serve you by assisting you to gain an operator.
You might want to get online and chat it up with someone that might be interested in helping you figure out how to do that. I like it. What else?
Brandon says, when you start to align yourself with your dreams and goals, trying to bring something into life that you've never had before, what's the best way to start? Like something massive you have never had before.
If you want something massive, the first thing to realize is that there's a gestational part of creation. If I want to create a human baby, how long does it take? It takes 40 days. 40 weeks. But technically you could do it in 28 weeks. Did you know that? Technically a baby is viable at 28 weeks. My two older brothers are twins. They were born 3 months premature. They were each given 40 years ago a 5% chance of life. And they survived, right? So what I'm saying is that your goal or dream requires a certain amount of gestation. So if you're like, I want to become a billionaire, cool. There's probably a couple 100,000 decisions over decades that are going to make that possible for you, right? If I want to make a cheetah, that takes 89 days. If I want to make a little chick, it takes 14 days. If I want to make an elephant, it takes 22 months. So whatever your goal or dream is, it has to gestate. Just know this, if it's big, it will require more decisions, which means it's probably going to require more time because it's contingent upon the speed of your decision-making ability. There are some of you here that have big dreams, but you're lousy decision makers. Means that you're just like really slow or you suffer from analysis paralysis. By the way, people with analysis paralysis, they'll almost never figure out the money game beyond what a W-2 can produce. Because business owners, they understand that indecision costs more than bad decision. So you have to make a certain number of decisions to produce a certain outcome. Yeah. And where do you start? Frequency. My team tomorrow will send you the meditation that I do. You'll see exactly in the Mind Palace meditation where to insert time reviewing your creation, feeling it as if it's already come about, generating the frequency, and then just looking for that matching frequency in people and circumstances. And that's how you gather and pull in through the law of attraction the thing that you want in life. Great question. I'm going to come right over here next. Guys, we're going to do probably 4 or 5 more questions before we wrap up our evening. Let's hear it.
Yeah, so my name's Levi.
What's up, Levi?
I agree with like what you said, as if I were to like tell it to somebody else that. But when I look at myself, it's like, all right, cool. If I was 18, like, yeah, that's the blueprint. Let's go get it. But I find myself looking at it like, no, I've got kids and a family already. And when I'm lacking on the money side, I feel like with the other 3, I find myself juggling those other 3 with like the extra time, because everybody always speaks like, oh, like fix the money. And then the other 3 will come, where it's like you just spoke to the opposite there.
Yeah. It's an interesting question. Because there's a lot of wives, for example, that experience discontent with their husbands if they're the core breadwinners. Because if you've created your budget in a way where you're falling behind, you're going to create some really unhealthy pressure for yourself. Here's what I would recommend. In the game of money, the most important decision that you will ever make is right here. What does it stand for? Pay yourself first. When you get a paycheck, you should be taking 20% of that and you should be putting that into an account that doesn't go towards bills. If you can do this, it means that you are fiscally responsible enough that at the end of the month you can pay all your bills and you've got 20% left over. Now, that 20% will never get you rich, but the second decision then has to do with investing. And using that money to invest is how now your money starts working for you. Very first asset that I bought was a house. It was a tiny little house, literally 5 blocks from here on 8th North, 425 West. And the house was for $110,000. It was worth $150,000. It was a tiny little piece of crap bungalow. I bought it with $3,300. It took me over a year to save up $5,000 so I could have a 3% down payment on that tiny little thing. And then I had to put sweat equity into it to fix it up. I rented out the basement, and then that basement rent actually paid the entire mortgage except for like $60. My wife and I essentially lived for free in that house. Now, we qualified to buy a much nicer house across town like my buddy with the same income had. But we didn't make that choice because we weren't going for lifestyle. We were going for a different game, which was we're gonna save our money, and then we're gonna invest it, and we're gonna make it work for us. And if you do this, you've got time for love, you've got time for kids, you've got time for health, you've got time for all of that stuff. The bad advice that is hyper prevalent is that, well, if you get your financial thing figured out enough, the other stuff will come. What I'm suggesting is that if you're not investing in your relationship or your body, there's a cost to that. And making money is harder than those games. It takes more time. So if you want to be sustainable in the long term with it, you got to figure out these shorter games and get good enough at them so a spouse can support you also in playing these other games, or your kids can, and you don't feel like you're missing out on life, or you feel like you're missing your kids growing up. A lot of people do that because what you just said is undefinable. Figure out the money game is what? Now you got to answer this toughie. How much is enough? Because I'll just tell you, when you get $100,000 in the bank and you've never had that before, you're going to say, oh my gosh, I can breathe, that feels good, that's an amazing feeling, but it's not enough. Because who you become, this is important, who you become in the process of what you're trying to get is who you'll be when you get there. So when you harbor the energy of not enough, then when you finally hit a goal, you'll move the goalpost and say, it's not enough. So then there's $1 million in the bank, and you're like, wow, I've never had $1 million in the bank, this is amazing, but now I've taken even more time getting somewhere I've never been before, and because of who I am to get where I am, I'm naturally going to have what mindset? That it's not, that's the game of money. The ego, by the way, I just want to drop this. This is different than your question. Two things that ruin life plans, really big, and then I know you have a follow-up. 2 things that really mess up life plans. The first one is significance. What is significance? The need to be seen as important, accomplished, I've achieved. Have you seen my resume? Did I tell you guys I've done $2 billion worth of real estate? Did I tell you that? And it's not one private jet, it's that's called significance. It is driven largely by an ego that has a mantra. It's a one-word mantra. Never enough. More. I need more. So if we put the game on money and that's where our energy goes, I've hung out in the masterminds with crazy rich dudes who are on their 3rd marriage, that are fat, and that are lost. They're lopsided, they're deeply imbalanced. So I do think if you want to put money first, I think that you can put enough effort and energy into it, get really good at it. The question is only what sacrifice will you get? Because there's no shortage of miserable millionaires. My personal experience.
Yeah, I think my question's more so on the red side of things, where it's like, it's not that, hey, I want, or I have 1 million and I want 10 million and sacrificing those things. It's more so the lack of the money, like but a percentage of a negative number is still.
But you're not listening. If you have a negative number, you're not doing this. So guess what I said? Do this. Here's what it means. If your budget is inverted because you're in the red, then it means that you've made financial choices that have created that situation for yourself. And what I'm saying is, you need to do a money makeover. You need to reconfigure your budget and start all over, sell shit, do things different so that you can live within your means. If you're in the red, you got to get out of that. And making more money could be a way of getting there, but most people that are in the red, we're not talking about paying yourself first and investing. We're talking about Uber driving, gigs, side business, hustling, 70, 80 hours a week. That's just from fiscal irresponsibility. And I also say that with a healthy dose of the last generation is like, guys, you are in the worst, you've been given the worst financial setup in history. Gen X had 88 times more money than you 2 generations ago, than millennials, because of inflation. So I know that also what I'm saying is it's like, Kris, but this is hard. And I want to say this, it is, but you're still going to have to start the same way in the beginning as everyone else. You got to figure out how to make your work life fit within a budget so you can get ahead.
So the blueprint still applies even in that.
The blueprint applies. If you're in the hole, it applies even bigger. Because I bet you there's a ton of people in here in this room like, let me just prove it. How many of you right now spend more than you make every month? Raise your hand if that's your situation, just honest. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and then I'm sure online we have a bunch of people. So that's a situation that a lot of people find themselves in. How many of you find that you are just breaking even every month? You're not further ahead, you're not further behind your break even. Raise your hand if you're break even. We got some people in that corner. How many of you are saving 10 to 20% a month in your financial situation? We got a bunch of people in that situation. So there's going to be a spectrum. And so in the beginning, the hard game is, how do I make financial choices that will allow me to be in the black instead of the red? Because I just said it. The most important financial decision you'll ever make in your entire life is how you build a budget to have enough left over at the end of the month so you have something to invest. And if you're not there, yeah, you could try to just work harder to fix it, but multiply that over years and ask yourself, will I like what happens if I do that? Or do I got to burn it to the ground, get on paper, and recreate this thing to be functional today, even if it means I have to make some nasty, hard choices? I would rather say, go get Dave Ramsey's Money Makeover book and just redo it and figure out that way rather than, well, I got to work harder. And it could be a combination of both, but just don't prioritize money above everything else, because the cost is going to be way greater than money. Money is, ironically, here's the crazy part, and I'm really glad you asked this question. Money is the least valuable thing. Did you guys see that? But humans don't actually believe that. If aliens came down in a spaceship and observed human behavior, you know what they'd say? They don't really give a shit about this or that or this, but they like this weird green piece of paper with old, funny, weird men with long hair. It's strange. They're really into this stuff. That's what aliens would observe in our human behaviors. This is the least valuable thing. I would rather go to my grave poor and be poor in all retirement, having all 3 of these things and just barely enough of that. So just understand, I come from that mindset because you may not value that opinion. That's just my personal belief. It's a good question. Thank you. Carson, we're going to do a question online, and then we're going to do one more right here. You got one for us?
Mark says, what do you think of spending most of the money on investments and not having much of an emergency fund?
That's a really good question. Emergency fund investing. Oof. My belief about your emergency fund, in my world, I call it a SWAN account, a sleep well at night account. When I don't have a lot of money, it's not a lot. The more money I get, the bigger it grows. When I have a lot of money, it gets really big. Like, I like to have 7 figures for me in my sleep well at night account. That's an important figure for where I'm at today. But there was a time when just having $5 grand in the bank was like a really big deal because I was freaking poor. So you get to figure out, is it 3 months of expenses? That's really hard for some people. For me, it started off with, can I just get an extra month of breathing room? And then I want to save up money for my first house. Now can I get 3 months of breathing room because I'm buying my first investment property? Now can I get 6 months of breathing room because I'm about to buy a business? Now can I get a year's worth of breathing room because I'm doing private equity? So I think it's a number that is supposed to grow, and so investing and sleep well at night, they're meant to scale. It's a good question, thank you. Real quick, before we go to our next question here, guys, if we can put the QR code up one more time, if any of you wanted it, you're gonna get my library of books for free. They're gonna help you with this philosophy. They're gonna show you how to become wealthy in a lifetime, and sometimes in as little as 5 or 10 years. So there's great strategies in there. Also, if you download that, it comes with a free strategy session if you want, where my team can basically put me in your shoes and say, if I were you, these are the things I would contemplate doing. We call that a free game plan here. Some of you have had that, some of you have not. So that's something that comes with the book as well. And then for those of you that are online, Carson, if you can drop that link one more time for our people on social as well, that if you want to get my books for free, remember my team will also contact you for that consultation. If you want it, take it. And it's literally a multimillionaire saying, if I was you, what would I do different to get ahead quicker and faster? And then you have a perspective on whether or not that's useful or not. Does that make sense? All right, cool. Gonna come right here.
So my question's maybe a different angle, but you went through this huge transformation. You kind of talked about going from more to what you are now. What is your biggest accomplishment now than what it was, and what is your biggest regret looking back?
This is gonna sound a little bit weird, but my greatest accomplishment is when I am meditating, being present, hugging a tree, connecting with nature, or spending time with my loved ones. I used to define achievement as authoring books and holding transformational events and changing lives, and you know, there's only 2 restaurants in the world that are 7 stars, and one of them's in Dubai. And I'm telling you right now, I've never had better food in my entire life. Those were the things that meant a lot to me. They don't anymore. As far as what I probably regret the most, I regret how long I was bougie from self-importance and ego before I realized that instead of flying first class around my own private jet, when I get to sit coach, and I'm just grateful for this modern miracle that gets in the air, and I get to sit with the peasants as one of them, I realize that I am no different than anyone else, and there's no status, and there's no significance, and there's no purpose of ego. All of those things rob presence, because what they do is they distort my view of the world, and they create an energy of self-importance, which is just an illusion. It's an hallucination, and it dies with everything else when things die. And so I've been letting go of that and just enjoying life this way.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. Guys, thank you so much for being with us this evening. We spent a couple hours together. Those of you that are online, thank you for your participation and questions. Enjoy those books. We'll let you know about other upcoming things that we have. I love to help people in the game of money and transformation and growth and all those wonderful things, but if I never see you again, please live the most beautiful life you possibly can. Thank you.
Woo-woo-woo.
Thank you, guys. Yep, thank you.
All right, guys, thank you so much. I'm gonna squeeze my way up here. Thank you, Kris. Got a couple of last housekeeping items for you. Obviously, we want to make sure that everybody has access to some of those goodies that Kris mentioned. We had the book bundle. That's what we had on the QR code here. So let's make sure for the people online that we have that link dropped, and then can we show that QR code up here as well. Filling that out, that'll get you access to Kris's library, all of those books. And just for the record, Christopher, we did have not 1 track record document, but 2 of yours already in that school community. So in case you caught that part where he was like, oh, my team's not on it, they don't have that document in there. We did, both of them. Okay, so that's the QR code you're gonna fill out for that one. For access to Kris's meditations, those are in our school community. If you're not already in there, it's free to join. We've posted that link as well online. For the group that's here, you can just look it up on school. For Kris Krohn, you'll find that community really easy. When you jump in there, you'll be able to find those meditations. And then the third bonus What's in my head? Is that it? Meditations? Books? Was there something else? Well, he is. He's sitting down on the couch in the break room. And we did post online. Somebody was asking about Forge, so we posted that link as well because we'd love to talk a little bit about that for anybody who's interested. Awesome. Yep. So we'll grab Max. He's right here. Handsome-looking fellow. Looked like he played football. You want to wave, Max? For those of you who want to find out about any of those other opportunities, Max is definitely able to answer any last questions about those. But hopefully, for what it is that you guys came here to get, and for those of you that were able to jump in online, thank you for your participation. You're able to figure out a couple of those next steps, right? Sometimes it really is about just figuring out that breadcrumb revelation, right? What are those next 1 or 2 steps I need to take to make sure that I'm tracking? So hopefully that part of your intention was met and you felt that. Any last questions from the group before we say goodnight for the evening? I just want to shout out our friend from New York who was like chatting on the Zoom. You guys missed it here. He's like, I'm like 25 minutes away. I'm like 23 minutes away. So yeah, welcome. Any last questions from the group here before we say goodnight? Yes. Wow, okay. Yes, so it's in our school community. Yep, so you can access that through a browser. They do have a dedicated app. We are going to? Oh, we're working on a QR. But if you download the school app and you search for Kris Krohn, you'll see the Kris Krohn community, and then you'll be able to jump right in there as well. We're going to see if we can whip up a QR code for that. But so you'll see there's a number of things that are automatically unlocked for you when you join that community, and the meditations will be one of those courses that you'll have access to. So great question. Yeah. Anything else? Feeling okay? Books, meditations. I thought there was a third one. If there is, we'll send it to you. Yep, that's in the book bundle. So as long as you hit that QR code, once you're in school, you'll see Kris Krohn's library. There's, 8 or 10 of those books in there. They're all of them. And then there are 2 different track record documents. One of them has a larger list of kind of like why real estate and his deals from a number of different years. And then there's an update that you'll see. It's called like 2024. So you'll see both of those in that book bundle course on school for those of you who are jumping in there. That one might not be automatically unlocked. That's probably why it is that they're collecting your email addresses, because it's not one that automatically unlocks in that school community. Yeah. All right, for the group here, there you go. That'll take you right to the Kris Krohn community. I'll get out of your way here. For school, that's where we're keeping the convo going. All right. Okay, thank you so much, everybody. Drive home safely. If you have any last questions for Max or the team, we'll be here for a few more minutes. Thank you, thank you, thank you.